right, welcome back everybody to another new episode of A Whole New World, where we're here to put a spotlight on positive things happening in the community and developing that positive mindset. As always, I am your host, Jacob New, and we love to start every episode with a dad joke. So without any further ado, our dad joke today is, how do you make a Venetian blind? Poke him in the eye. Window treatments. Oh man, so we are
very nice.
We are very lucky and privileged to have back with us Miss Pari Smart from Strength Finders Coaching. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes. So thanks for being on the show again with us.
Thank you. My pleasure. I'm glad to be here.
So, for those listeners who might not have heard our previous episodes, can you go ahead and just what are Strength Finders? Grammar's not my strength.
Okay. Well, let me help you with that.
Yeah. Okay.
So I am a coach. I do leadership coaching. I do professional coaching, and the tool that I use to help people as we start those relationships is something called the Clifton Strength Finders. And the Clifton Strength Finders is going to be, it's a personality assessment of sorts, but instead of saying, hey Jacob, this is what you're great at, this is what you're terrible at, let's focus on your weaknesses, it says, hey, this is what you're fantastic at, let's learn to manage your weaknesses, but really what we want to do is leverage your strengths or your natural talents. And when we do that, what we are able to do is take you from good to great.
Okay. Oh, so, I love that.
Yeah, who doesn't want to be good, right?
Yeah.
When we focus on our weaknesses, we tend to go from to mediocre.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's not energizing. That's going to be draining. But instead of learning just to manage those and focus on what you're naturally inclined to do really well, then you're able to really rise to what I call superstardom.
Okay.
But you've got to know your superpowers in order to do that.
Yeah.
So.
No, I love that. And just a couple more questions about that. So, like, how many strengths are there, and what are the chances that somebody else will have the exact same strengths that I do? That
is one thing I love about this assessment. Is what the assessment says is there's 34 different personality traits. And so we all have all different traits. We have them just in different orders and different intensities. Mm-hmm. So rather than saying you are one of 4 personality types or one of 16 personality types, it says you're truly a unique individual. You have gifts to bring that nobody else can bring. And your order of strengths, your top 5, there's only one chance in 33,700,000 assessments that someone will have your top 5 in your order. And for your full 34, the likelihood is it just doesn't happen. It's just you.
Yes. Nobody else has those.
Which I think, that really speaks to what we know is true.
Yeah.
Right? People say you're one of a kind. Nobody else is exactly like you. But this assessment validates that.
For me, it's hard for me to kind of comprehend because it's just 34. You'd think it'd be like a bigger number of strengths for that to happen, but just with 34 strengths, nobody can have the exact same lineup that I do. That is phenomenal.
And there is a white paper. I will tell you, math is not my strength, so I haven't read it. But if you need the white paper from Gallup, I can absolutely get it for you.
Okay, all right. So. I might be looking into that later. Yeah,
I can hook you up.
I love it. So, one of the first things I wanted to ask you is, as a coach, what has it been like coaching through COVID?
I think doing everything through COVID has been a new experience for most of us. And I think what I've learned pretty quickly is that everybody's reacting differently. Mm-hmm. I've got some people that I work with who want to talk to me more, right? And I think it's because they've got so much to process and so much going on. I've got some folks who are pulling back and they're like, Pari, I've got so many other things in my world. I can't process this right now. And what I have found is it's really important to meet people where they're at. So if you need more coaching, we do more. If you need less, we do less. I have done a lot more Zoom coaching than I've ever done in my life, but I think That's probably most of us.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think everybody coming out of COVID, they're like, Zoom? You mean like zoom into the picture? And they're like, now they're like, oh, you want to Zoom later?
Yeah,
like, no.
exactly. So I've done a lot more Zoom, but again, it's a matter of meeting people where they are and recognizing that everybody's processing differently.
And I think that's just something good that we all need to kind of keep in mind, is that we need to go and when we're meeting people, or like with our friends, whatever, our family, that we do need to keep in mind we're all in different places, and so we need to take that into consideration to go and meet them there. I know as a teacher, that's one of the things I have to kind of consider. It's like they should know fifth grade material, but they don't always, and so it's like you got to kind of go down and meet them at where that level is.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, and I'll even tell you, I was probably a little slow to jump on the bandwagon of Zoom or virtual. I had done some virtual, not a lot, but I thought, oh, this will be a 2-week vacation. I'll just sit back and just wait it out. And then after about a month, I said, oh, no, we need to do something a little different. So I actually had to pull on some of my strengths that I didn't use on a regular basis and figure out, okay, how do I get these strengths moving in a place that'll get me moving and making some changes. So
I really like that. And going back to the strengths and how we're all unique. Nobody has the same lineup as me.
Right.
One of our 5, I was going to say pillars, is our cornerstones, is integrity. Yeah. And I feel like this helps a lot with us coming up with the idea of who you are as a person to kind of help you navigate the world. And I mean, this Strengths Finder, I think, definitely ties into other ones like mindfulness and maybe even a little bit of some resilience to helping you to work through. But going with the integrity, the last time you were on the show, you had said that when people are doing work that's in their top 5 strengths, that they are usually 66% happier. Yeah. And that like stuck with me, and I've kind of been curious why exactly is that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this is a number that's been validated by Gallup through all the research. And what they say is that when you have the opportunity to work in your sweet spot every day, right? And your sweet spot is going to speak to how you're naturally wired or how you're inclined to react. When you're able to do that every day, then it's easy for you. And because it's easy for you, you achieve success faster, which means that you're recognized. And when you achieve success faster, you're like, well, that was easy and I got recognized, so I'll work harder. And it's just this spiral, but instead of a spiral downward, it's a spiral upward.
I love that.
Right?
Yeah.
And when you're successful and you're happy and you're not drained and you're doing what it is that feeds your soul, that's when people report 66% more satisfied with the quality of their life and 66% happier in every area of their life, even if the work they're doing is just personal or it's just professional. It still kind of bleeds in and speaks to every part of who they are.
I like speaking to every part of it. Are there any like special any verbiage that goes with Strengths Finder? So like I know my top 5 strengths are adaptability, positivity, includer, empathy, and arranger. Had to kind of use my cheat sheet a little bit there.
That's okay.
But like for me, I've noticed it's kind of helped me kind of be going with the mindfulness, like noticing like I have a breakdown in communication. This is bothering me. But is there any special like terms or anything that can help me communicate? Adaptability is my highest one, so I like to have that fluidity inside things. Right.
Well, so as far as terminology or language, the way I explain this to people is that those top 5, so the top 5 you just mentioned, those are going to be what are called your signature strengths. And signature strengths, they speak to who you naturally are. So are you right-handed, left-handed?
I'm right-handed.
You're right-handed.
Yeah.
So just like you're right-handed, okay, one of your signature strengths is also adaptability. That says when you're not thinking about how to react, you're going to naturally react in that way, and that's going to give you energy.
Okay.
And then you've got 6 through 10, and 6 through 10, these are things you can do too. They just aren't going to be your first reaction. So when we look at your 6 through 10, we can figure out how do we channel these, and then you've got a larger toolbox
Yeah.
with which to handle some of that adversity or some of those communication challenges. And then as you go down, you can do or you can react in any of the ways that the Strength Finders represents. There's nothing you can't do. My guess is if you had to write with your left hand, you could do it.
Yeah, it'd be very illegible, but it would suffice.
Yeah, you could do it. And it's the same experience when you get into those bottom 5. Anything in the bottom you can do, you're just going to find it's kind of stressful. It kind of drains you. And I like to call those your lesser strengths or your lesser talents.
Yeah.
They're not your weaknesses. They're just your lesser talents because you're never probably going to be rock star when it comes to using those 5. But as you look at that full list of 34, it's not just that you've only got 5 skills or 5 gifts. It's a matter of here's where I'm going to go first, and then here's some other things I can pull from. I just have to be mindful, right, about doing that. And then the higher up you are on the list, the more it is going to speak to who you are. And I think that's what you were probably talking about with integrity.
Yes.
Right? Because you're acting out of who you are naturally inclined to be.
Yeah, and 100%. That's
great.
Hit the nail right on the head. That's where I was going with it. And because I think there's a lot of value in understanding what you're naturally good at.
Yeah.
And utilizing that. And figuring out how to leverage it. So I do understand that a lot of people don't have adaptability in their top 1
and
or
you're
top 5.
To one.
So how is it that people are able to? Because I see adaptability as being kind of like a key thing for like things like COVID. Like I was like, okay, this stinks, but I was able to adjust well. I wasn't. So how are people able to leverage their other skills when they have like adaptability down at 34?
Yeah, and you say adaptability at 34 because you know that's mine.
Yeah.
So I have adaptability 34, which says that I like a plan. I don't want any deviation from the plan. And by the way, COVID was a pretty big deviation. That was not in my plan, right? And so it kind of threw me for a loop. And if I had tried to say, okay, well, I'm going to be like Jacob and I'm going to be as cool and fluid and just take this off the cuff, I could have done it, but I would have been very stressed out. And so instead what I did personally is I had to take a look at what else do I have going on that I can really focus on or channel. So fortunately for me, I have number 3 is empathy. Okay. And so
we share that one.
We do. And I say luckily. So empathy says that I'm pretty good at figuring out how other people are feeling. And I know you've had that experience too. So I really tried to turn away from some of the stuff I was feeling and think about, for instance, my clients or my friends or my family and focus in on how are they feeling. Yeah. And when I was able to focus on them and helping them, it actually helped me feel like I had a little bit more continuity in my world.
Okay. Because
I was doing what it is that I do. Number 4 for me is positivity. And I think we share that one too, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Positivity.
So I kept looking for the silver lining. And that's why I laugh and joke with, before we start, when it first started, I was like, okay, a 2-week vacation. This isn't how I expected it, but I'll just take it. And then I was like, oh, it's not a 2-week vacation. Let's figure out. It's a 4-week opportunity to change my business model, right? I kept looking for that silver lining. That positivity helped. People that have learner, I've had them tell me that they really looked at it as an opportunity to learn some new skills. And you heard about a lot of people online saying, I took a class, or right, or I learned new things about my family because I was stuck at home with them.
You can do what?
Yeah, exactly. So it's really just a matter of, I think in this situation, anybody that had adaptability, it was probably a little easier or more smooth transition than for some other folks. But it doesn't mean that other people can't figure out how to work it. It's just being strategic in the way you view it and how you set your mind around it. Because I really think mindset has a lot to do with it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So when I could focus on empathy and positivity, okay, that's where my head is. This is where I'll go. You could focus on adaptability and positivity. You're like, oh,
yeah, we'll get through this.
Yeah, that's cool, right? We'll get through this.
You've got a nice new view now.
Exactly. And there were other people who had different. people with achiever. They love to get things done. So I suggested to them, make a list of all those things you've been putting off for a rainy day and start doing them.
Yeah.
Right? And then they found energy during that time as well.
Okay.
So
lots of home improvement projects done.
I had several clients who said they pretty much cleaned out Home Depot. So
that's, I believe that. And I feel like that was the one store like business increased. It was like, what?
Yeah, I think you're right.
So everybody has such a unique skill set, and learning how to use those and adapt to different situations and overcome different obstacles, I think is very important. But I think with that too, one thing I wanted to ask you, because I just recently experienced this myself, similar experience, is that how do you, as a coach, how often do you run into people being envious of other people's top five, like somebody saying like, oh, I wish I was more adaptable,
right.
or I wish I had more positivity, I was an includer, and that's like 30, 28 for them on their list. And
right.
A little background as to what happened was my dryer went out this weekend.
Okay.
Yay.
Sorry about that.
And so I was talking to my parents about it, and I consider myself a pretty handy person.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, you should give your brother a call. He'll help you fix it. And I'm like, I was like slightly offended. I was like, I can fix it. And I mean, I ended up calling him, and he's coming over later tonight.
Nice.
But I mean, I was able to only get so far, but whereas I kind of view that as like his maybe like his top five is mechanical stuff,
Sure.
whereas that might be like I'm good at it, but that's like a top 10. So how do you kind of help people work through that, where there might be like, I'm okay at it, but you know, this person's really good at my okay.
Yeah.
How do you?
A little bit of ego in there, right?
Oh yeah. Oh no, it hurt.
And
I was
we all have that. I think that's a really good question, and there's a couple of different ways I'd approach it. First is I would remind you that just because your brother is a rock star when it comes to fixing stuff doesn't mean that you can't fix it. But I would ask, like, how much time is it going to take? How much energy? How are you going to feel when it's over? And you might feel more tired. It might take you a little bit longer, where if your brother's really awesome in that area, he could probably come in and do it faster. It'll be energizing. He'll be able to still go out and do stuff tonight.
Yeah.
And so it's a matter of judging how much is your time worth.
Okay.
Right? And thinking, gosh, if I can let him excel or do this thing that he excels at, it's going to allow him to feel great, and it's not going to cost him any energy.
Yeah.
Where if you do it, may cost you some energy, and it's going to leave you unable to do the things that you're really fantastic at.
I've never thought of it from the energy perspective of it. But that makes a lot of sense, and I probably applies a lot to like businesses and teams too, like absolutely. Allowing people to flourish. And it's like that I'm okay at it, and I enjoy doing it, but I would be very exhausted at the end of it. And so letting him do it would save me time, energy, and a whole lot of frustration, but
plus you're allowing him to play in his sweet spot.
Yeah.
Right? Whenever we get to do something that comes natural to us, well, it's just fun, it's easy, it comes quickly, it's done, and he feels good. Meanwhile, you haven't expended the time and energy, and you have energy left over to do what you're really awesome at.
Yeah. And that is so cool. It's like just taking the time to acknowledge other people's superpowers, you know? Like, you were amazing at this. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like,
and then knowing he'll need you, right?
For something.
For something. And for something at some point. And, Jacob, you said, well, this is teams, right? And this takes place in the business place. And it's exactly the same thing. You can do anything. But why would you want to spend time doing something that you've got an expert, at on the team? Yeah. We know that really good work comes from strong partnerships. And strong partnerships is taking people with differing strengths and matching them together.
And so a question just kind of popped up for that. Like, so people are allowing the other person to go. Is it bad that, obviously they need to be able to answer like basic questions.
Sure.
But then is it bad for them to be like, I don't know, I'm going to send you to this person, or like, should they know the ins and outs
So
as like a team member?
Yeah.
You know, you're working together on like a project or something. I don't know.
So you're thinking like if you and I were working together on a project, do we both have to know everything?
Yeah.
I would say no.
Okay.
Yeah, I would. In fact, I would rather let you know that. I would rather know a little. Let's see. I'd rather know a little bit about a lot of things, and let you really go deep.
Dive deep down.
That's right. You've got
Delve
me all.
deep.
You've got me all tongue tied. I let you do the deep dive where I would know the basics, and that's where we're going to be a stronger team, because then you may know the basics of some other part of the project and let me do the deep dive there. So
yeah, that's teamwork makes the dream work.
It does, and you know what? It also makes pretty strong relationships. I gotta throw that out there.
It is. I have found myself with my wife, because last time we met, it was just before we got married, and so there are times I'm like, why is she? Oh. And like, because you gave us a list, and it has like they're called balconies and basements.
Right.
So I don't want to steal any of your thunder, but what are balconies and basements?
Very good.
Yeah.
So I mentioned this list of 34, right? And I said that the bottom 5, they're not your weaknesses, but they're going to drain your energy.
Yeah.
What happens is our weaknesses actually tend to be our strengths that we turn up too loud. Okay, so let me tell you what I mean. Let's assume you and I are in the car together, and your favorite song comes on the radio.
Okay.
And you crank it up.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and I'm like, Jacob, this is way too loud.
A sweet child of mine.
That would probably. I might stay for that. I do like a little Guns N' Roses, but yeah. So you might think it's perfect volume. You've cranked it up. I think it's way too loud. I jump out. Somebody else gets in. They think it's way too quiet, and they crank it up even louder. The question I would ask you then is, who is right, your other friend or me?
I think right is relative.
And I think that's yeah, right. It's just
I'm right.
Yeah, you're right. It's right in the middle. So here's the idea behind balconies and basements: is that when you are living your strength in the balcony, that says it's the perfect volume for the audience to get you what you need. Okay. So
that's the sweet spot.
That's the sweet spot.
Got it.
When you are living your strength in the basement, that means it's turned up too loud for the audience, and so you may not be able to get what you need. Now, that doesn't mean that it's wrong. It doesn't mean the radio is too loud. It just means it's too loud for your audience.
And to kind of give our listeners out there an example, my top strength is adaptability. What that would mean, if I'm in my sweet spot, that means that I'm being flexible, I'm comfortable in times of change, easy to get along with, goes with the flow, which I think all of those, I don't think I've ever had like a roommate, well, maybe my first freshman college roommate who was like, but people are like, you're an easy person to live with, because I just kind of go with the flow.
You just go with it, yeah.
But the basement, the too loud would be directionless, indecisive, sheep, inconclusive, and whimsical. I guess I get sheep.
Sheep.
Yep, it says sheep.
Huh. Well, I don't have my glasses on, so I can't argue. I'll argue with you off our air. I don't know what it says. But you are right. That's the idea, is that when you are in your sweet spot, when you're using adaptability, what I call for good, then people just see as easy to get along with, right? And that will get you far in those relationships. If they think you are too easygoing, they may see you as whimsical, or gosh, he has no direction. He's just kind of going. He's out there on his own, and that's where your actual strength is going to boomerang out, come back, hit you in the head, and sabotage your relationship or your success.
And everybody can agree that's bad.
That's bad. Sheep. I don't know where you got that.
I will hear.
I can't
sheep
see
is
it right
on there.
now.
It's
okay, whatever.
Oh, wow.
We'll see.
That threw me for a loop. I was like,
but and that's the idea. My number one is something called woo.
Yeah.
And woo, just the very name of it, you can guess what it means. It's a big personality. It's somebody who likes to meet new people. Is not afraid of strangers. And when we talk about woo being a strength that's in the balcony, people normally see me as approachable and fun, and they just very welcoming.
Yeah.
Right? I tell people I like to shake hands and kiss babies. Right?
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. But when it's turned up too loud, and I'm guessing everybody knows somebody like this, when you turn it up too loud, people can see it as aggressive or obnoxious or just too much.
Mm-hmm.
And what I tell people, Jacob, is that I never ever wake up in the morning and think, oh, today I'm going to be aggressive and obnoxious and too much.
Yeah.
No. I think I'm going to be happy and approachable and friendly. But if it's too loud for my audience, then I'm not going to be able to get what I need.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want you to know, I don't ever ask anybody to change. I just ask you to be aware of your basements and balconies so you can be deliberate in how you come off to other people and the perception they have of you.
And that's very important for us to be aware of when we're doing that, so we can turn down the volume. And I think depending upon the situation, you're going to do different things.
Absolutely.
But how do you help teach people to recognize that they're in that basement?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. And the first thing you've got to do is you've got to be self-aware, right? Mm-hmm. So that list you have is a good start, right? And starting...
I don't always have it with me.
Yeah. But you have it for reference, right? And you have someone in your home that loves you who can also see it, right?
Yes.
And help you be self-aware of it. And it really is a matter of just starting to catch it. So, again, when I found out that some people might perceive me as obnoxious, okay, that blew me away because I thought, gosh, that's never my intention.
Yeah.
And so just knowing that, it was so impactful that when I would go into different, especially work situations, I would be very aware that, okay, I need these people to take me seriously. I want them to see I'm a professional that's approachable, but I don't want to come off as obnoxious. So it's a matter of deliberately just dialing it down a little bit. And then as that relationship develops, knowing I can let it come out more and more and more. Okay. So it's not a matter of not being who you are. It's just choosing how loud who you are comes out.
It's almost kind of like leashing it for a little bit.
Exactly. And then, again, knowing your audience. When I first started learning about strengths, I worked in an IT department, which means I pulled it in a little bit because there weren't a ton of people with woo.
Yeah.
But if I go into a marketing department or an advertising agency, they're normally a little more wooish. So they can handle it a little bit louder.
I never thought about it like prepping beforehand, like what you're going to be. That's real good. Everybody, make sure you write that down.
Yeah.
Like,
be deliberate. Know your audience, right?
Yes.
Know your audience. Know how they could perceive you. Again, when I go into those sort of IT or construction companies, I'm gonna dial it down. If I go into a more creative organization, it can come up a little louder.
Yeah. So. That's so cool that you're so aware of that, and you have the skill and knowledge to turn it up and turn it down.
And everybody can do
effortlessly,
it. Yeah. Everybody can learn to do it.
So, and while we were talking, my assistant looked up my helper. Sorry, we don't like assistant, but my helper. He looked up sheep, and by sheep it means she's kind of being told where to go and kind of following the flock. That's what that means.
That's why. So it really does say sheep then,
yeah.
Huh?
Yep, it's a sheep.
So people might just see you as just going just going along,
I
not
guess.
Questioning.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you, helper.
Yeah, thank you. So, one of the things, though, I think, so we all have 34 strengths, and we've talked a lot about the strength that we're all unique in that aspect.
Yeah.
I know there's 4 buckets as well. So
You've been doing your homework.
I have.
Look at you. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I've been prepping for my audience.
Good. You get a thumbs up.
Yeah. But what are those 4 buckets, and then how much of a factor do those play in recognizing with the basements, I guess, and balcony?
So the 4 buckets, what this means is that each of these 34 talents will fall into one domain, and I do call them buckets. So the first one is going to be executing. And if you have a lot of your talents in the executing bucket, that says you're going to get a lot of energy from getting things done. Okay? Then you've got the influencing bucket. And the influencing bucket says you're going to get a lot of energy when you can get other people to get things done.
Yeah.
Right? So it's motivating others and completing work through other people. The third bucket is going to be relationship building, and that says that your energy comes from being a nice guy, building relationships, being with other people. And then your fourth bucket is called strategic thinking. And your strategic thinking is going to be the bucket where these folks get a lot of energy from thinking and planning. These tend to be your visionaries, your strategic folks.
Yeah.
And most of us will have, in our top 10, we'll normally have different talents in at least 3 of the buckets. Now, if you don't, that's just
I just have
fine.
2.
You just have, so you only have 2.
Yeah, I have 1 in executing, and the rest are in relationship building.
Yeah. So what that means is you're perfectly fine the way you are.
Yeah.
Right? It just says that you're a really nice guy who likes to get something done.
Yeah.
Right? And that's how you're going to approach situations, is you're probably going to go in and you're going to make people laugh and you're going to be friendly, make them comfortable.
Yeah.
And then you want to get something done. Right? But you may not be the guy who's too worried about influencing or I'm going to use the word maybe supervising. You'd probably rather be in there with them.
Yeah.
In my top 5, I am strong in relationship building and influencing.
Okay.
So I'm going to approach it that I want to be your buddy, and then I want you to do what I need you to do.
Yeah.
So
do not cross Pari.
That's right. I'll sit back and eat my sandwich, and then you can just report back to me how it went. Again, it doesn't mean that either one of us can't work in the other buckets. It just means this is our natural reaction, and this is where we are going to find ourselves probably recognizing success the easiest. Normally, again, when you go to your top 10, you'll probably still have 1 empty bucket. Most people will, but not right or wrong. And then when you go to your bottom 5, frequently they will tend to be in the bucket that was just kind of neutral for you.
Yeah.
So,
and it, like you said, it's not bad that I'm mostly relationship, but I believe you said strategic thinking was like finding like the vision, right?
Right.
And so for me, like I would, since that's not a huge strength for me, I might go to somebody who does have that strength and allow them to do it for me.
Well,
help me with it.
Great. Well, but here's the great thing is that I always tell folks that if you have lesser talents in a bucket, you just compensate with what you've got going on. So my guess is if you needed to come up with a strategic plan, you probably know a lot of people. You're a nice guy.
Yeah.
And so you would probably...
I got a couple Facebook friends.
You got a couple Facebook friends.
Yeah.
Then I would say the strategic way to do it for a non-strategic person, but somebody who has a lot of Facebook friends, is to then reach out to those folks and say, hey, I'm looking for somebody who can help me. And because people feel rapport with you and they like you, they're probably going to jump in and help you. Right? Or you may know a ton of people and you may be able to identify, oh, this person's really good at that. Because they like me, they're going to be more likely to help me out. So that's a great way for you to approach strategic thinking.
I like that. Now, I was thinking on the flip side, somebody who doesn't have, if I was strong in strategic thinking, I would want to seek out somebody that was stronger in relationship building. Right.
The situation, if it calls for that.
I was like, that would be a different scenario. But I was just kind of thinking, like, I shouldn't be afraid of that, though, because they would be that one approachable person. So that's how I could, like, identify them. Be like, hey, I need help with this kind of, like, social situation. Can you help me see this other person's perspective? Use your empathy.
Right.
You know?
And think about it. If somebody came up to you and said that, hey, could you help me with this? I mean, would you be fine with that?
Yeah, well, yeah.
You'd probably think fun.
Yeah.
Right?
I love this. I do this walking home from school. Let's go.
Exactly. And that's the idea of either partnering with people who have complementary strengths or figuring out how to compensate for what you don't have with what you do. Everybody has exactly what they need to be successful and happy. It's just that many people don't know. And you liked that 66% statistic I gave you.
Yeah. It stuck with me.
I've got another statistic for you. Okay.
All right.
And conveniently, this is also 2/3. But what we know is that when Gallup asks adults, what are you naturally good at? 66% or 2/3 of American adults cannot name anything.
I'm a man child.
Yeah.
I'm good at that.
People, well, but you know, you say you're a man child, and I think that's funny because when we're kids, we're good at everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm the best fireman, I'm the best Olympics, right? I'm the best everything.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along the line, I think maybe in the name of humility, or maybe it's integrity, I don't know, this gets beat out of us.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell people that when you don't understand what you're good at, you're going to miss the opportunities to give some amazing gifts to the people you love, or your friends, or the world. Because you don't know yourself well enough to be able to spot those opportunities.
That we all have so much to give, too, and I do agree. I don't think, speaking for myself too, like that we don't always realize that, and so
I hear that all the time. People say, this isn't a talent, this isn't a gift," or they say, "That's just who I am." Well, that's the talent.
It's because we don't notice it.
It's
you
right
know?
Because it's so much who you are. You don't see that it's different from other people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So being able to recognize that and then say, wow, this is how I can hone in, this is what I'm good at, that's going to allow you to give the gifts to the world that you were brought here to do.
Yeah. So. No, I love that. Wow. So we have covered so much in this. And before we start wrapping up, I do have one final question for you.
Okay.
And that is, well, sorry. I need some water.
I'll take a break.
I like swallowed spit wrong.
Thank you for that visual.
Yeah, you're welcome. What final piece of advice do you have for our listeners out there
with regards to
using their strengths or just acknowledging the fact that they are unique? Themselves.
Well, I think that's the best advice, right? Is recognize, look around, and think about, if you're thinking, I don't know what my strengths are. Mm-hmm. Look around and think about what makes the best day for you, right? What does the happiest day look like? What's a day look like when you're tired? And what sorts of things did you do? And that's a great way to start identifying where your passions are, and then learning to leverage those is where I can come in and help people with that. But I would say start recognizing that you have gifts to bring, and start recognizing how when you use those gifts you feel. And when you do that, you're going to be driven to do that more often, which means you're bringing bigger and bigger and bigger gifts to the world and the people around you.
I love that. And thank you so much for being on the show. And I'm sure there are people out there that want to get in contact with you.
That would be wonderful.
And we will include that in the show notes.
Okay.
But can you tell us, where can we go to find Pari?
Absolutely. So you can check me out on my website. And my website is smartpossibilities.net.
Okay.
So
I like
just
it.
one word, smartpossibilities.net.
All right.
And then I'm also pretty easy to find on LinkedIn and Facebook.
I like it. And it's Pari.
You got it.
And then I like how you used your last name. That's
smart. Did you just now
super
catch
smart.
that?
No, I've noticed it. But
Okay.
I have an affinity for using last names and titles,
I guessed you might have. Yeah.
Yeah. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you for being on the show.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Blessing us with all your knowledge and wisdom. So.
Fun day. Let me come back sometime.
Oh, we would love to have you.
That would be great.
Thank you to everybody listening out there. And as always, if you only learn to do one thing, learn to make a difference. Y'all have a good night.